want to show you how you can import a homework assignment into Excel and then solve it if you have, for example, your basic finance class and you're solving for time value of money. So I've created this table here that has PV, periods, rate, future value. Some things are missing, right? So here we're given the present value, the number of periods, and the rate, and we want to solve for the future value. Over here, we're given future value, interest rates, and the number of periods. We want to solve for present value. Here, we're going to solve for the rate. Here, we're going to solve for the number of periods. So it's probably quite common now that you're getting your homework in downloadable form. Okay, most schools have some learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard, and most, I would imagine, most professors just load up the file to the learning management system. That's what I do. There's no reason to print off pages of these things to hand to students, and it's also the case that students now are taking and we're offering more online courses, so this is the only way to distribute material. So you've got this table here, and I typed this in Word so that I wanted to make sure that if the homework was typed in Word by your professor, that it would work when we imported it into Excel. Well, lots of times I'll type these in Excel and then copy it into Word, but I type this directly into Word using the insert table function. So let's see what I can do here. So you'll notice when I hover over the table, I get this little plus sign in the upper left-hand corner. And if I hover over that and I right-click the mouse, all right, it gives me the chance to do some bold and some other stuff, but I can also do it again and say copy. And I'm going to go to a blank Excel workbook, and I'm going to right-click the mouse, and I'm just going to paste it in here. So I have all this information in here, and I'll just do a little formatting. Actually, I'll make this a little bit wider so you can see it. So we've got the table in here, and we can actually do the calculations in Excel. Now, you could type in 1,000 times 1.05 raised to the 5th power, and many of my students do that, but why don't we just use the future value function, FV, and we want to put cells in. So you don't have to remember what comes next because Excel tells you it wants the rate. We're going to separate that by a comma. It wants the number of periods, which is right here. We're going to separate that by a comma. It wants the PMT. We don't have a PMT, so I'm just going to put in a 0 there. And it wants the PV. And then I'm going to close the parentheses, and there I get the answer. And if you've worked with Excel before or Financial Calculator, it's going to give you the sign that's the opposite of the previous sign. So what's the beauty of this is that I don't actually even have to type the formula again. I can copy it down. So you might get an assignment where you have to solve 5 or 6 or 7 present value equations. If I highlight this and I move over here, you can't really see it because of the borders here. But in the lower right-hand corner of this cell, there's a little box. And if I move over it, this 3-dimensional plus sign becomes a 2-dimensional plus sign. And I can just drag that down. And you can see that now it'll find the future value of 150 for 10 periods at 8%. It's smart enough to know that it had cell D4, C4, and B4. Now it wants D5, C5, and B5. Okay? If you don't want the cells to change, then you can put a $sign in front of the number. If you don't want the row or the column to change, you put a $sign in front of the letter, which will lock the column. Okay, we don't want to do that here. We want it to change. Okay, over here I want to solve for present value, so another function is PV, and I'm going to put in, it asks for the rate first, so the rate is here, again separated by a comma. Then it asks for the number of periods. Again, it asks for the PMT. I don't have one, so I'm going to put in 0, 0. And then it asks for the future value, and the future value is right here. And I'm going to close the parenthesis, and I'm going to hit enter, and I get the answer. Let me expand this row a little bit, or I'm sorry, yeah, this column, so that when I copy it down, you can see it a little better. And it's the same thing. I'm going to copy it down, and here I get the present value of $425.35 for 9 periods at 6%. So this is the same as taking 425.35 and dividing it by 1.06 raised to the 9th power. Here I'm going to solve for the rate. So the rate is going to be equal to, and there's a function called rate. Actually, let me expand this so you can see what I'm typing in here. I'll expand this one as well. Let's see. There's a function called rate. So rate, and it asks for the number of periods first. It asks for the PV. Now this has to be the opposite sign of the FV. Okay, think of it as a cash outflow. You're taking money out of your pocket, so it's negative, and then the FV is going to be positive. So let me make sure I got this right. Actually, PMT was next. We don't have a PMT. Now I want to put in the PV, and then I want to put in the FV. And again, I'm going to close parentheses, and I get an answer. Now they only give you whole numbers. Ideally, you should expand the number of decimal places, and you can do that up here. And again, I can copy this formula down, right? And again, if I had 10 of these, once I do the first one, I can just copy it down. The last one I'll do is the number of periods. So the function here is called NPER. And again, it asks for the rate. It asks for the PMT. We don't have that. And then it asks for the PV. The PV is right here. And the FV is right here. And we get that answer as well. We probably don't need quite this many decimal places, so we could reduce that. So you can do this easily if it's a Word document. Suppose your professor has posted up files that are in PDF format. So this is the same file here, right? You can't really just copy it and paste it in. So you could say copy and paste, and then you get this mess. You can't really do anything with it. So there's a trick here. What's the trick? The trick is you say data, get data, and you're going to get it from a file. And I'm going to get it from a PDF. I happen to have my file here stored in a folder called Slides for Video. And if I want to search out, I don't have many PDFs here. I'm going to type in star.pdf. And this is the table I want. Sample TVM homework PDF. Import. It's importing the data. I'm going to pick a table here. I'm going to pick this one. You can do it this way as the formatted. I'm going to pick the just sort of the raw data, and I'm just going to say load. And there's my data. All right, let me see if I can get rid of this here, make this a little bit bigger so you can see this better. And let's see if we can do the same calculations here. Equals FV, right? Ask me for the rate, comma, number of periods, comma. There's no PMT, so I'm going to put in 0 there, and the PV, and I hit it, and I get the answer. And again, we can copy all of these down. It actually does a really nice job of putting it in a table format with these nice formattings that makes it easier to see each column and stuff like that because it alternates the color and stuff. But this is a really easy way to do the homework. So whether you're getting a PDF or an Excel or you're getting a Word document, you can do this. If your professor hands this out, you could actually scan the document and save it to a PDF and then use this format to import it. So this is a much easier way to do it. And for those of us grading, all I do is hover over this and I can see the formula that's there. And so it's really easy for me to solve or to grade the homework. I just hover over here and I can see what you typed in. Okay, makes it really easy to do. So I hope you find this useful and that it'll make your life a little bit easier in not just an intro finance class, but you can certainly use this in other classes where you're given a bunch of numbers and you need to do some calculations.